Mellow greetings, everybody. My name is James. I'm from the internet, and today we are going to be talking about the right to free speech. Now, in case you've been living under a rock for the last 3 or 4 days, El Presidente has been suspended and then permanently banned from Twitter, as well as being suspended from most other social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Pornhub. He's just been suspended everywhere. Everybody piled up on him. And the common refrain I'm hearing from the right in extremely loud, guttural sounding tones is, "My free speech." What happened to my free speech? This is America. We all have free speech in America, right? I hear that a lot. So, what I would like to do is briefly review El Presidente's situation and then have a little discussion with people about what is and is not free speech, what is and is not protected speech, and what you, as a citizen of the United States, are entitled to in regards to free speech and legal protection thereof. So, let's start it off with this brief visual. Now, of course, he'd have you believe that this is literally the end of the world, that the worst possible thing has happened, that America is now a communist country being run by the radical left because they hate patriots and conservatism and Jesus and the Easter Bunny and Christmas and whatever the hell else. And yes, there is a wide swath of Democrats in America who have been dancing a little jig all weekend, doing a sack dance, getting in the celebration. Woo, President Trump's been banned. And of course, that's really just making the patriots and all his followers who no longer have access to him angrier by the moment. So here's the situation right now as it stands. We will not be silenced. Trump issues statement after Twitter ban. Outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump has slammed Twitter for permanently suspending him, vowing that he and his support base would not be silenced. The unprecedented move by the California-based microblogging site on Friday comes after Trump tweeted that he would not attend the inauguration of his successor, Joe Biden, on January 20th, because of course he won't. That would be the mature, grown-up thing to do. And of course, Donald Trump is a petulant man baby, so he has no interest in either of those things. Quote, after close review of recent tweets from the real Donald Trump account and the context around them, specifically how they are being received and interpreted on and off Twitter, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter said in a statement. Now, honestly, it doesn't matter what reason they gave. Any reason they gave was going to instantly piss off Donald Trump and then instantly rile up his supporters. At the time of permanent suspension, Donald Trump had 88.7 million followers and followed 51 people. Because of course he only followed 51 people. Donald Trump has never given a fuck about what any of you think or any of you have to say. Like 30,000 people come to his rallies. You know how many of them Donald Trump is listening to on Twitter? 0. You know how many Donald Trump is listening to anywhere? 0. The only thing he will occasionally do is retweet a tweet that somebody that he is following also retweeted that contains the words Donald Trump in it. Other than that, Donald Trump has never given a fuck about any of you anyway. In a statement hours after he was banned, Trump said, quote, I predicted this would happen. We've been negotiating with various other sites, and I will have a big announcement soon while we look at the possibilities of building out our own platform for the near future. We will not be silenced. Now, if Donald Trump goes ahead and does this, more power to him. I applaud him. After all, he's a businessman with entrepreneurial spirit, right? This should be right up his alley. Seeing a void in the market and then filling that void with a product or service that makes him lots of money, while also costing no money to start up. Because I guarantee you, whatever it is Donald Trump comes up with, he's not going to put a cent of his own money in, even though he's already raised over $200 million since the election ended from idiots at home mailing him money to fight against the results of the election, which, well, we see how well that went. Quote, Twitter's not about free speech. They're all about promoting a radical left platform where some of the most vicious people in the world are allowed to speak freely. Stay tuned. He said, indicating some announcements in this regard is forthcoming. Yeah, maybe he will build out a platform. He'll take other people's money as investors and then give it to some people who actually know what they're doing, because Donald Trump doesn't have a fucking clue. And maybe they'll build a platform for him. Maybe they'll just copy all the Parler code and rename it and put a different logo on it, since apparently Parler no longer has any use for their own code. Ooh. Yeah, not sorry. As I've been saying for a long time, Twitter's gone further and further in banning free speech, and tonight, Twitter employees have coordinated with the Democrats and the radical left in removing my account from their platform to silence me and you, the 75 million great patriots who voted for me. So, to confirm, if you are on Twitter and you're a fan of Donald Trump's, and Donald Trump gets banned from Twitter, well, then that means they're silencing you too? How done? Unlike you, the majority of your followers can still tweet. Like, they haven't been silenced. You've been silenced. You just seem to think that everybody who retweets you is speaking on behalf of you and speaking for you. Bro, they're just like you. They're addicted to the clicks. That's all. They just want the retweets. The same as you, Don. They sit around waiting for that number to go up going, oh, look. Oh, yeah. Oh, my penis is getting larger. Oh, it's tremendous. It's so tremendous now. They're literally doing the same thing you're doing, just on a micro scale. Twitter may be a private company, but without the government's gift of Section 230, they would not exist for long. Now, this has become a common refrain from Donald Trump, and because of that, all his followers also scream about it also. Do you want to know how many Trump followers actually know what Section 230 is? 0. Do you know how many current sitting presidents actually know what Section 230 is? 0. Would you like to know what Section 230 is? Trump's Twitter ban renews calls for tech law changes by many who don't get tech or the law. You know, like Donald Trump. In the middle of the pandemic, Wednesday's violent mobilization at the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters with the urging of the president was facilitated with ease, out in the open and all online. There are a handful of technology platforms that enabled everything from crowdfunding and ride-sharing to branded merchandise. There's no way Wednesday's events could have happened without the convenience and ease afforded to white supremacists and almost everyone else by the openness of modern consumer internet. It's ironic, then, that the insurrection unfolded on the heels of President Donald Trump's continual efforts to repeal Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which makes it difficult to sue online platforms over the content they host or how they moderate it. Had Trump succeeded in his years-long effort to change the law, which he'd apparently deemed responsible for what he'd heretofore thought was his lack of social media success, it's entirely possible that the platforms on which his supporters organized their riots would have been kicked off them long ago or been sued into doing so. Please, tell me more. Of course, now that Facebook and Instagram have banned Trump for at least the rest of his time in office, and Twitter has permanently suspended his personal account, we can expect those calls to resume anew and with additional fervor, mostly because few people really understand the law itself. Section 230 is, of course, the rare law that is disliked by Republicans and Democrats. Biden hates it, having said, I think social media should be more socially conscious in terms of what is important in terms of our democracy. Everything should not be about whether they can make a buck. Oh, look at Joe being all anti-capitalist now. Sounds like Joe wants to strap some federal control on something. Republican lawmakers have come to hate it too, believing that it protects only anti-conservative bias by social media companies. Even Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has called to reform the law. Yeah, we're gonna revisit the anti-conservative bias thing in just a few minutes, so hang on. They're not entirely wrong. There are legitimate reasons to scrutinize Rule 230 and its many flaws. It's one of the most consequential laws governing the internet, and it provided a crucial liability shield for technology companies for content they didn't themselves create, like comment threads. But it was created in 1996 before social media, as we know it now, actually existed, and it's never been updated to take into account any of the technological changes that have happened since. Now, here is where I will briefly stop and remind people that technology always moves faster than legislation. So the fact that this is going to be revisited now, while the backdrop of it is Trump screaming like a giant man baby, is not outside the pale. This follows along historically what the path is of the relationship between technological advancement and legislation. What Rule 230 isn't, though it's often portrayed that way, is a bedrock for free speech protections. It's simply a rule that permits internet companies to moderate what other people put on their platforms, or not, without being on the hook legally for everything that happens to be there. The exceptions for the shield include actively illegal content, such as child pornography and blatant violations of intellectual property. It allows them to choose, with very few restrictions, what kind of space they want to create for their users. You know, because they are a private company. They might be publicly traded, but at the end of the day, they are only beholden to their shareholders and their board of directors, plus making sure that they operate within the confines of whatever legislation the government passes regarding their specific business or industry. The same conservatives who said you shouldn't be angry that Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes because he was just following the law and it's the tax code that's fucked up. Yeah, those are the same people who don't seem to understand that Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are operating well within their legal rights as put forth by the law, and that if they don't like it, then they should go out and lobby to get the law changed, right? Same exact thing all you fucking dingbats said when everybody was like, hey, how come Trump made $64 million off The Apprentice and paid no taxes? And you said, it's not Trump's fault. If you don't like it, maybe you should get the tax code changed. So there you go. In case you didn't know what Rule 230 was, that's what Rule 230 is. It in no way is going to make Donald Trump's life post-presidency any easier. It's not going to give him any more flexibility on the internet. So now that we've cleared that up, I want to get back to explaining what free speech is to people, because apparently this is a point of contention. I'd understand if you don't understand what Rule 230 of the Communications Decency Act is. It's a tad obscure. However, I still have people giving me shit for not reading the Constitution and not knowing the Constitution and not understanding that free speech is everything. Well, let's review very quickly. Here you go. Here's the First Amendment, the exact text. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's what the First Amendment states. It says that the government cannot create any laws that hamper you from doing any of those things. Again, reminder that the same fucking chuckleheads now who are screaming about Donald Trump can't be suspended from Twitter because of free speech were totally okay with the idea of saying that people shouldn't be able to protest out in a public park like Occupy Wall Street did. The same exact amendment that you want to cite as a reason for why Donald Trump should be allowed to be on Twitter is the same fucking one that allows people to peaceably assemble and seek redress from their elected officials. Same First Amendment. And guess what? Regardless of which side of the fence you're on, it doesn't say shit about companies, corporations, or social media. All it says is that the government is not allowed to do any of that stuff. And the government has not. Twitter is its own company. Facebook is its own company. So no, just saying the spirit of free speech doesn't mean you get to say whatever you want. So to all of you out there in snarky comment land, do me a favor in the comment section, write down your address. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to wherever it is you live. I'm going to find the school where your kids go to learn, and I'm going to stand out that school with a megaphone and scream for 6 straight hours that you are a pedophile. Then I'm going to go to where your wife works, and I'm going to tell every single person who works there that you are banging her best friend. Why? Because it's my free speech, right? I can do that. No, dumbass, I can't. It's why we have laws against slander. It's why we have laws against libel. And it's why we have laws against inciting a riot. And none of these have anything to do with a technology platform, merely the individual actions of the people who use them. Last point before I go. Twitter and Facebook are not banning Trump because he is a conservative. They're not banning him because he talks about Jesus. They're not banning him because he talks about patriots. They're banning him because he was inciting a riot. And if you don't believe me about the imaginary anti-conservative bias, I would like to remind you that while Donald Trump has been banned from Twitter for a couple of days, I've already been banned from Twitter for a couple of years. And guess what? They're not violating my freedom of speech. They're merely making a decision that as a corporation, they don't want to do business with me anymore. And I'm okay with that because now I spend my money and my clients' money on other platforms that aren't Twitter. And this is why Twitter is only the 10th ranked social media platform by volume on the face of the planet. So, Donald, there's at least 9 other platforms that suck less and have more users than Twitter. Maybe, just maybe, instead of crying about your Twitter account or trying to get hundreds of millions of dollars of other people's money to invest in a platform, you could just go to one of the other platforms that you're not banned at and, I don't know, stop saying inflammatory shit that incites riots, and maybe they won't kick you off of there as well. Just something to think about, eh? Until next time, my name is James. I am from the internet and I am out. Peace.